Hey, it's Tara with Reiki on the Run. And today I want to talk about 5 reasons traditional therapy, talk therapy, did not work for me. And just a disclaimer, I'm not saying it won't work for you, it won't work for someone else, or that there's anything wrong with it. For other people, it just didn't work for me. And maybe it didn't work for you. And maybe you don't understand why, or think there's something wrong with you, or whatever. We'll just talk about 5 reasons traditional talk therapy didn't work for me. So I've been put in therapy at a young age. I've mentioned this before, I was drugged on Ritalin for most of my youth, and also put in therapy at that time, here and there. And I also sought therapy as an adult, when they pulled me off the drugs and then I couldn't handle life without being drugged and on antidepressants and things like that. I've been off all of those for many, many years, thank goodness. But therapy didn't work for me. It never did. And my first reason is, especially knowing what I know now, is that it causes you to relive things in your past, which keeps you in that energy. So I can understand wanting to know, or how it helps when you know why you act the way you do, why you don't have self-confidence, why you don't feel very good about yourself, why you're angry, and maybe being able to point to things in your childhood, shitty things that happened to you, and to be able to know, oh, that's why I do this. Unfortunately, that doesn't change how you stop feeling those ways. So when you continue to think about all these negative things that happened to you as a child, or whenever, whatever thing you're going to therapy over, you relive those things and you think about them a lot, and you talk about them with someone, some you don't really know. And it just continually keeps you in that energy. And when you understand that we're a vibrational universe, and that the more we live in traumatizing events, the more we get like frequency things, right? If we continue to think negative thoughts, whatever they are, and that absolutely includes traumatizing things that have happened to you that you would need therapy for, and you're just going to keep experiencing negativity. So that's a really, really big one for me, knowing that, like I teach in all my workbooks, that's what they are. My workbooks are about shifting your thinking, and it shifts your life, because your thoughts are energy. And when you realize how much we think about things constantly, and we can shift those out of a negative energy thing into a better, higher vibration, higher energy thing, that will shift everything in your life. So when you realize that that's what you need to do, is to shift out of thinking of negative things, you realize it's not a good idea to continually drudge up the past and think about those things constantly and mull them over, and just not a good idea. And that's, for me, that's what therapy has always been about, talking about your problems. And the best way to not continue having problems, and to not continue being sad and upset and angry, is to not be thinking about problems. So that's number 1 for me. Number 2, something that I really struggled with, was that they can't relate. I mean, most therapists that I've been to, now there's an exception with few people who get into the field because they have had good results with it, or they've had traumatizing things in their life happen and it really turned them around, and they want to help other people. So there's some people who have been through the crazy, but for the most part, most of the therapists I've met have never experienced some of the things I've experienced in my life. They've never witnessed the abuse I've witnessed or experienced or been a part of, or any of that. They've never seen the things I've seen. They've never been in the situations. They've never lived in the conditions I have. So it's hard for me to even talk to them, knowing, they've heard everything, they've heard way worse than anything I've ever gone through. But it's hard to sit there and talk to somebody who, their parents are probably in the medical field, and they probably could have picked any school they wanted and had the money to do that. And, it's a well-paying job and it's interesting. And so it's not always the people who have seen what I've seen. So it's just hard to relate as you sit there and kind of know what these people have been through a little more, especially as I'll go over later that they tell you all about that. It was really hard for me to relate, to someone with a perfect family, or just that hasn't been in to those situations that you've been in and experienced those things. So it was really hard. It's like, yeah, I know I can tell you these things, and you can go by the book and what you're supposed to do, and that's understandable from what you've learned. You can regurgitate the information that's supposed to make me better, but in reality, you can't relate. And so that was always a difficult thing for me. The next one, the third reason, is it's freaking expensive. It is so expensive. So I'm going to figure, I haven't been in a very long time, but I'm going to figure the average rate, I think at the last time I was going, was $100 for an hour. And I know it can go way above that, and you can have sliding scales and go below that. But either way, and even, $100 today isn't really a lot of money, I guess, for a lot of people, but I could do a lot with $100. I could go get a massage and a bunch of tacos and still have some left over and feel way better than I ever did in a therapy session. So that's a big one for me. I feel like I spent a lot of money that could have been used elsewhere for, better outcomes. So that was a big one for me. It's really daunting, and it's hard to, if that's a lot of money for you, if you don't just have tons of money to throw at things like therapy, it's hard to not, want more to be done in 1 hour. You always go and you just kind of get to know them, then you got to go back, and it can be frustrating, the whole process of thinking, man, I got to spend another 100, I got to spend another 100. And I could just think of so many other things that I'd rather spend my money on than talking to some stranger about all the bad things that have happened in my life. So number 4, they talk more than I do. So I had this problem. I don't know if any of you have ever experienced this too, but it seemed to me that I have this thing where people in general do that to me anyway. They tell me their life story. They open up in ways they say they never have. I don't know if it's my face, my smile, my ability to listen, and that I do pay attention and care. But this would happen with therapists too, when I'm paying them, $100 for this hour. But they would tell me everything. I would know things about their family, who they were married to, what college they went to, what they did their thesis on, what research papers, vacations. I remember one guy telling me about a skiing trip, and it was really, I kind of liked it sometimes because then I was off the hook for for having to talk. But it's just another reason to me why it doesn't work, because they're talking to me more than I'm talking to them. Not really a good idea when you're spending that kind of money. Anyway, so number 5, the last one, it's uncomfortable. Clearly, I wouldn't hang out with these people who I was seeing for therapy. And, when you're talking about things that you don't really want to dredge up anyway, it's hard to spill your guts to somebody you would never hang out with. It's hard enough to do it to friends you're close to. But when you have such a gap, like I said before, with someone that you can't relate to, it's really hard to open up, especially when you think, and everybody has their problems. Everybody's experienced stuff. And I know I say that the people can't relate, and I'm sure some people have experienced some of the things. But in your mind, when you're looking at, you're feeling like, low down, no good person, and you're coming to them with these problems, and you look at them and they have this big fancy office and they have a Beamer outside, and you just don't feel worthy, and it's really hard to open up about those things going on in your life. So, not to mention, generally not going to be people that, in my case, that I would have hung out with. So, anyway, those are my 5 reasons that therapy didn't work for me. Now, I'm not just going to leave you hanging. My next 5 things video will be about 5 things that did work better than therapy. So, not to worry if you are like, well, yeah, that's great. I know they don't work for me either, but now what? So I will share that next time I do a 5 things, probably next week. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you soon.